Welcome students. Today we will start a new chapter from geography, and this is the second chapter, and the name of the chapter is latitudes and longitudes. Students, we know that the shape of the earth is spherical. That means it is like a ball, and the proofs that we get from the photographs taken by the orbiting satellites or the people, that means the astronauts who go into the space and take the photographs, that shows that the earth is spherical in shape. But when the actual measurement was taken, so it shows that it is not equal. That means these two sides and these two sides, so both the sides should be equal if it is spherical in shape, but it is not like that. That means the earth is not completely spherical. So the earth is slightly bulging at the equator. So this is the equator. It is called equator, and here we will find these two sides little bulging, and these two sides little, these two sides north and south, that you know, north, south, west, east. So these two sides, here it is little flat, this both the sides, and this both the sides are little big, so it is like an orange. Okay, and if the measurement is taken, then these two sides, that means the equator, at the middle it is equator, and the equator is 44 kilometers more from the North Pole and South Pole. So if we measure these 2 points and these 2 points, it is not equal. This side, because of the bulging, it is 44 kilometers more. 44 kilometers more here. But for all practical purposes, we consider that the shape of the earth is like a sphere, but actually it is not like that. It is easy to locate a place on a flat surface. On a flat surface, if we see, then we can, that means if we use the map, then we can easily locate a place, where the place is. But if the thing is like a ball, so it is very difficult to locate any place. That means here no point is there, as it is spherical in shape. So here we cannot say that this is the point, this also a point. If we move it, then everywhere we will find any point. So the actual point we cannot find. That is why locating place on a globe, it is very difficult. So therefore, if we want to know the exact location of a place, so some method we have to use, otherwise we cannot find any location exactly. The earth rotates, we know. The earth rotates on its axis. So here we find one axis is there, it is called axis, and all that it is also imaginary line, as we have come to know. This is the imaginary line, and on that the earth rotates, and the end point, this is the end point and this is the end point. For your understanding, I have given the line here, but actually this line is not here. This line is here. Here we find the north. This is the north, and here we find the south. That means the earth is not completely this way. It is this way. That means it is, if you see a globe, then you will understand how the earth is. Okay. So here we find two poles. This is the axis and this is the end point. Here it is called North Pole and it is called South Pole. So two poles we find, and we can divide the earth into two equal parts. That also we came to know in our last chapter, geography last chapter. We have come to know that the equator divides the earth into two equal parts. So in the middle we find here it is the equator, and the equator divides the earth into two equal parts, and in the middle this North Pole and South Pole. So here we find North Pole, South Pole, and here it is west side and east side, and it is called the equator. And this line is a circle. That means the middle line, it is a complete circle. It is a complete circle which divides the earth into two equal parts, and it is called equator. So this line is called equator. This line is called equator, and we find two hemispheres. From here to here it is northern hemisphere, and from here to here it is southern hemisphere. So two hemispheres it creates. The part of the earth which is towards the north of the equator is called the northern hemisphere. That means which part is towards the northern side, it is called northern hemisphere, and which part goes down, it is called southern hemisphere. So these two hemispheres we find. Now we have the following references for describing the location of a place on the surface of the earth. So here these three things, North Pole, South Pole, and the equator. So these are the three important imaginary lines. With the help of this, we can locate a place. Now students, let us come to discuss about the parallels and meridians, which are parallels and which are called meridians. So let us come to know. The globe, which is the exact representation or exact model of the earth, it has two sets of circles. That means this one kind of circle, and here we find another kind of circle. So two kinds of circles are there on the globe. In one side the circles run from west to east. So west to east, this way one circle we find, and north to south another circle we find. So which runs from west to east, it is called parallels. So here it is in the middle, it is called equator, and parallel to that many lines are there. These lines are called parallels. And in the second set, the circles run from north to south and pass through the North Pole and the South Pole. That means from North Pole to South Pole. So this way also lines we find. So on the globe, same these lines you will find. That means these lines from North Pole to South Pole which joins, it is called meridians, and these lines are called parallels. The parallels and the meridians can be used to define the location. So with the help of these meridians and parallels, we can locate a place easily. The parallels and the meridians intersect each other at right angle. That means right angle is called 90 degree. So here we find where it crosses, it is complete 90 degree. That means the right angle. Everywhere if you find the intersecting point, from here if you see it is 90 degree. So every angle is at 90 degree. The network of parallels and meridians on a globe is called the Earth's grid. So these lines are together, these lines are called grids. Now parallels or latitudes. What are parallels and or latitudes? So we can draw a set of circles between the North Pole and South Pole. So between these two poles we can make circles, and these circles should be parallel to the equator. That means at the middle it is the equator. Here we find the equator, and these are parallel lines. So these are parallel lines and parallel to the equator. These circles are called parallels or lines of latitudes. So these lines are called lines of latitudes. These are all the lines. The distance of a place north or south of the equator is measured as an angle. So all the lines are measured at an angle, because when it crosses or intersects, it creates an angle. So the place where it is at an angle. This angle is the latitude of that place. That means where it creates an angle, it is called the latitude of that place. That means the angle is called the latitude. The latitude of a place is the distance of that place north or south of the equator. So from the equator, it is in the north side, northern hemisphere, or in the southern hemisphere, we can locate. And measured at an angle, and here where it creates an angle, it is the latitude of that place, whose vertex is the center of the earth. That means the center is here. That means the line, two lines intersect. That means this prime meridian it is called. We will come to know more about the meridians. And this is the equator. So from the intersecting point, we measure how much north or how much south. That means if we in the northern hemisphere what degree it is, or the southern hemisphere what degree it is. The latitude of a place is always expressed in degrees. So these all the places where we locate, and it is measured in degrees. So there are 360 degrees in a circle, and 60 minutes in a degree, and 60 seconds in a minute. So like time only, here we find there are 360 degrees in a circle. So in one complete circle in one complete circle outside this earth. That means here we find 360 degrees and 60 minutes in 1 degree and 60 seconds in a minute. So these things are very important. You should keep in your mind because it will help you in the further discussion. So the equator is taken as the starting line. So this line is the starting line. This equator is the starting line, and it is marked as 0 degree latitude. So this line is called 0 degree latitude. So this line is called 0 degree latitude. The distance between the equator and the North Pole is 1/4 of a circle. So the distance from here to here to here, it is 1/4 because here we find 4 parts. This axis, that is North Pole to South Pole, and it intersects here, and we find 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So that is why from 0 degree to North Pole it is 1 part, 1/4 you can say. 1/4 of a circle. So thus the latitude of the North Pole is 90 degrees. So here it creates 90 degrees. If we measure this, we find 90 degrees. Thus, which is written as 90 degree N. So if we see the north side, northern hemisphere, then it is called 90 degree N. And if we go the downward, that means in the southern hemisphere, it is called 90 degree south. The parallels are drawn at an interval of 1 degree. So here one parallel to another parallel, it is 1 degree. So here also 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, like that. So here we find parallels at a distance of 1 degree. Thus there are 90 parallels. Thus we find from here to here we find 90 these parallels, and from here to here, from equator to South Pole, we find 90 parallels. So total there are 180 parallels on a globe, and if we take this equator also, then it is 181, but the equator is 0 degree. So it is not counted. That is why 90 degree here, 90 circles we find, and here 90 circles or parallels we find. While writing the latitude of a place, how to write? The letter N or S is always added to the angular distance, such as 10 degree north or 10 degree south. So suppose we have to write where the place is. So that means we have to tell that it is in the northern hemisphere. So suppose it is the place is 10 degree north. So suppose one place is there, it is from the 0 point, if we see it is 10 degree north. So we have to mention whether it is north side or south side. That is why it is written 10 degree north, or if it is downside, then we can write 10 degree south. So this way we have to express. So this indicates whether the place is in the northern hemisphere or in the southern hemisphere. The places near the equator are said to be in the low latitudes. That means the places which are just near the equator, those places which are there near the equator, they are called in the low latitudes. These places are in the low latitudes. That means just near the equator. While those near the poles are in the high latitudes. So if we go near the poles, that means the places which are there near the poles, these are called high latitudes. If we go northern hemisphere, or if we go southern hemisphere, just near the poles, these places are called in high latitudes. The parallels or the lines of latitudes have the following characteristics. So some characteristics they have, these parallels or the lines of latitudes. All parallels are complete circles. All the parallels are complete circles. So they make complete round, that means complete circles they make, except 90 degree north and 90 degree south. So except the point, these 2 points, all the parallels are circles. But here it is the point, so here we cannot make any circle, just it is the point. The equator is the largest parallel. So this is the largest parallel, as we came to know that these 2 points here we find it is little bulging. That is why this is the largest parallel. The length of the other parallels decreases. So if we go up, that means in the northern hemisphere, or if we go in the southern hemisphere, the circles are less because this portion becoming small. So that is why these circles are also smaller circles. All parallels are located at an equal distance from each other. So the distance, as we have come to know, that 1 degree. So the distance from one parallel to another parallel, these all are at the same distance. The distance between any 2 parallels at an interval of 1 degree. So that we came to know that here 1 degree. So they are not differ. Not that this line is 1 degree and this line is 2 degree gap. Here 1 degree gap is there. And this 1 degree means on earth if we measure it is 111 kilometer. That you have to understand. 1 degree, that means 111 kilometer on earth. The equator is the only great circle. So if we say that the great circle, so great circle, here we find it is the great circle because it is bulging at the middle. And here we find the great circle, that means the equator is the great circle. While the other parallels are all small circles. So it is only the great circle, and the other parallels in the northern hemisphere if we see, or in the southern hemisphere, all the parallels are small circles. So some important parallels are there on the globe, and the axis of the earth, that means this is the axis. This is the imaginary line, and the axis of the earth is inclined. That means it is not straight. It is inclined. Clear? And at an angle of 66.5 degree to the plane of its orbit. So 66.5 degree. So here if we measure, it is 66.5 degree angle it creates. This inclination of the earth's axis help us to mark the following important parallels on the globe. So due to this inclination of the axis, it helps us to mark the following important parallels. Some important parallels are there on the globe, and these are Tropic of Cancer. And the Tropic of Cancer, it is at 23.5 degree north. That means from the zero equator, if we go 23.5, here we find Tropic of Cancer. Then if we go southern hemisphere 23.5, it is called Tropic of Capricorn. Then if we go 66.5, another line we find it is called Arctic Circle. And again if we go southern hemisphere 66.5 degrees south, then it is called Antarctic Circles. So we find here 4 important lines are there on the globe. The equator we know it is at 0 degree. So this equator is at 0 degree. So here we can find it is 0 degree. This equator is called 0 degree latitude. North Pole at 90 degree. So North Pole is at 90 degree north, and South Pole it is at 90 degree south. So these are the other important parallels on the globe. So students, these are all about the parallels. Then some zones are also there. So that we will discuss in our next class or in our next video. I will explain you. Some zones are there. It is called heat zones, and these heat zones we will come to know in our next class. So up to this much today we will here only we will conclude our class.